Welcome back to the Morning Show here on the Rise News. I am Adesoa Omorowan.
And I'm Rufai Oseni.
Generally, the role of civil society in democratic governance usually revolves around advocacy, civil engagement, media watch, budget tracking, provision of socio-economic services, sensitization. Others are election monitoring, legislative advocacy, and promotion of inter- and intra-ethnic peace, just to mention a few.
Civil society organizations have globally become an active non-state agent of democratic governance, saddled with multifaceted responsibility of providing social welfare, economic empowerment, humanitarian services, political participation, human capital development, and economic activities. And now, joining us for an overview of Nigerian civil society situation room is Esther Uzoma, human rights activist, lawyer, and alternate chairperson of the Nigerian civil society. But we'll quickly see what has happened in civil society space for quite a while now.
The woman leading that. Saying that entire is very close allied. Do you understand?
All right, the civil society space has been called to question a lot in Nigeria lately. Look at the happenings. Pretty much, let's start from that video we saw over there as regards the cause of protest and leading up to what happened yesterday, the Revolution Now protest in Lagos and other parts of the country. It looks as though there's been a constant, conversation around the civil society groups in Nigeria and how they've been able to effectively achieve results as regards this. Some people in some quarters are saying, oh, they're going a little bit overboard. Take, for instance, the protest yesterday. The conversation has been, hey, why should it be a revolution? Does civil society have the capacity to be able to say, oh, a revolution now should occur and things like that? So bring to the front of this conversation.
Indeed. Well, joining us now for an overview of Nigerian civil society situation is Esther Uzoma, human rights activist, lawyer, and alternate chairperson of the Nigerian civil society. Great to have you join us on the show this morning.
Good morning. Thank you.
Great. So a lot of conversations, as you've heard, around the role of civil society in democratic dispensations, in good governance. However, there have been talks in recent times that the space has been stifled for civil society. Do you share that thought?
Thank you very much. To a great extent, the civil space is shrinking. With arbitrary arrests, comments made on social media is sufficient to attract the wrath of Nigerian security agencies. To that extent, one can safely say that the space is fast shrinking. Don't forget that civil society is a critical partner in the Nigerian project. What do we mean by civil society? Civil society means everybody else who is not bearing arms. Civil society is not restricted to non-governmental organizations. Everybody, every Nigerian citizen who is not bearing arms belongs to this civil society. And so what we are saying is that the space for non-arm bearing members of the society is shrinking. Why? A lot of people are bearing arms. Arbitrariness is on the increase. Meanwhile, remember that the 1999 Constitution says that sovereignty belongs to the Nigerian citizens. That is the civil society, from whom the government derives all its powers and authority. And so, when we have, a harvest of arbitrary arrests, when free speech is under heavy threat, when we witness the slaughter of persons just because they express ideas, then one can safely say that civil space is shrinking, and it is not good for our democracy.
It is shrinking. It is not good for our democracy. But the government, on the other hand, will say it takes a joint effort to run democracy, to keep peace on the street. But when this peace is being hampered in the name of protests, Some are saying, isn't it getting a little bit overboard? A case in point is the Shiite protest and the Shiite back and forth that happened recently that led to the killing of a police officer, an invasion of the National Assembly.
Yes, okay, so what is peace then? What does peace mean? Peace has been defined not to mean the absence of war. No, that is not peace. Peace is that existence or that state of affairs that allows for expression of civil liberties. They're called civil liberties. These are liberties that pre-existed. They stand before the Nigerian state. And so peace does not mean everybody keep quiet, go back to your homes, salute when the national flag is raised or when the national anthem is being sung. No, 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 no. Peace is the celebration of rights granted in the Constitution. Celebration of rights. And so when our rights are not celebrated, when people are stifled, when people are choked, when fear is the order of day, governance by fear is not a state, it's not a peaceful state. And so we can only talk about peace when our processes are working. When our judges, when you go to court and know that, yes, let this justice, whichever way it swings, I am comfortable because I have confidence in the system. Peace is when you know you are not arrested because you express an idea different from that of the government in power. Peace is when you are not threatened because of your ethnic, of your ethnic affiliation or accident of birth. Those are the things that make for peace. Those are what we call peaceful affairs. Peaceful state of affairs when democratic tenets are celebrated. Peace is not, it's not Hitler-style governance. No, those are not the things. It's just a smoldering, volcano at rest. So when our rights are celebrated, when we are free to speak our minds within the bounds of the law, that's a peaceful state of affairs. I will argue.
And let's talk about, those who come together under umbrella bodies of civil society organizations who have a critical role to play in all of this. There are those who say, they have been compromised. You find out that these days, some of them are even partisan. Do you agree?
Well, that is a very dangerous generalization. Number one, people are free to associate on whatever ideological base they choose to. Freedom of association is fundamental. Why is it fundamental? Because you can't stop an idea. How do you legislate on an idea? That is why the law says that these rights are inalienable, as in they are rights that come with human beings because of their humanness. So association people associate along all sorts of ideological bases. Look at what happens, for instance. The Indian thinks the cow is sacred. But look at what we do to cow meat in this country. Okay? That is their ideology. How are you going to shift that? Ideology, you cannot subject it to logic. People believe all sorts of things. But the dividing line is this. Whatever your beliefs are, do not cross the line. Don't insist that I should believe whatever you believe. And so, when civil society, let them associate, let them believe, let them celebrate their belief anywhere they like it, whether they are partisan, whether they are not partisan, because it is personal to them. And whenever they express such beliefs, whoever wants to associate will go and associate. Haven't you seen what is happening in some of our religious circles? People believe all sorts of things. Okay? However, when people take steps to actually live out their belief in a way that falls short of the legal standards, that is when the law comes in. That's the beauty of legislation, to say, listen, this is the standard. Whatever you believe in, once you begin to cross the line, this line with it, it becomes an offense. So, when entities arise, whether they are political, whether they are not political, and say whatever it is, let me tell you, the right to say it it's not subject, you cannot, except when they want to cross that line. So any attempt that is made, whatever your perceptions are, oh, they are partisan, oh, they collected money, oh, whatever your reasons are, whatever you try to stifle that right of expression, you have breached the law.
But a lot of people will say it's just a very tiny line, and people have the tendency to cross those lines, to be able to say, okay, this is what I believe in, and other people must believe in what I believe in, even despite it's contrary to the norms of the land. A very big example is the movement for things like same-sex marriages and things like that. That expressly is not our ideology, but a lot of people have been pushing. And I've been saying, okay, this is our ideology, this is what we believe in, and other people too should believe it. Another example are people that have said, what we do is contrary to the laws of the land, that we're not subject to the laws of the land. So how do you reconcile that? The fact that man, in as much as man has an inalienable right to be able to believe whatever he believes, he also has the tendency to be very surreptitious and cross the line. How do you reconcile that?
When people start crossing the line, it means that we can actually bring their belief subject. They have started taking, it has gone beyond belief. They have now taken actions, to express that belief contrary to state, because the law is not about belief. That's why we wrote our laws down. If you do A, you have crossed the line. If you do B. So when people take steps that are overtly contrary to the standards we set for our existence, we can begin to judge their belief by what they do. But at the level of belief and propagating the belief, expressing it freely without more, does not breach any legal, provision. But when acts are brought to question, what people actually do, you can say, okay, you did A, even though you believe so and so, which is all right. But in propagating that your belief, look at what you did that is contrary to our provisions of so and so law. That is why our law says, for instance, that nothing is a crime if it is not expressly provided by any law. There must be that action must be expressly, incriminated before you can be liable. All right, so celebrate. Oh my goodness, belief is in an area that is outside. The law cannot legislate what people believe, because sometimes people just believe what they believe and I don't talk about it anyway. People just believe all sorts of things, but they don't talk about it.
So you have said that the civil society space is shrinking. Others have said that the current administration is intolerant to dissenting views. If you had the opportunity to speak to President Muhammadu Buhari about his government's response to civil protest, what would you say to him?
Thank you very much. If I had the opportunity to address the president, I will tell him directly. I'll first of all congratulate him on winning the elections. And I'll tell him that the method, the strategy adopted by the present security apparatus in Nigeria is appalling and devoid of any political goodwill. Completely devoid of any political goodwill. All right? The strategy, the security agencies must stop prostituting themselves to any government in power. They are agencies of state. They are not agencies of APC. They are not agencies of PDP. They are not agencies of any political party. And so when we watch videos, for instance, of agencies of state escorting some people on protest, and the same agencies of state are putting some other protesters in Black Maria, let me tell you, it does not command national unity. And the Constitution, Mr. President, provides that that the Nigerian state,
Esther Uzoma, I'm so sorry. We will come back to continue this conversation.
On the extent and meaning
I'm so sorry to interrupt your thoughts, but we'll have to go on this quick break. I'll be right back. Oh, great to have you back here on the morning show. And just before the break, we were discussing civil society space in Nigeria with Esther Uzoma, a human rights activist, a lawyer, and the alternate chairperson of the Nigerian Civil Society. Thank you so much, Mrs. Uzoma, for joining us again. And before that break, I asked you a question to directly speak to President Muhammadu Buhari if you had the chance, and what you would say to him about his administration's response to civil protests so far. And you mentioned the security agencies. Would you like to continue your thought?
Yes, I did say that I will advise Mr. President very strongly, sir, that it is time to rethink our security. Beyond that, they should be more civil because this is a democracy. Their approach to whatever civilians are doing should be more civil. All right? We watched, all right, while security agencies escorted a set of protesters and hauled another set into Black Maria. Why? The agency should not give the impression that they are an agency of a sitting president. They are agencies of state. And that idea of statism should be brought to bear in the affairs of our security agencies, in the affairs of state. Everything should be done at this moment to provoke patriotism in the Nigerian citizens. Mr. President, you need a State of the Nation address. Look at what is happening. Just talk to us. You are the father of this nation. Talk to us so that we are sure that, whatever is happening, so that everybody will not be left in doubt that, oh, these agencies are just acting on their own. It's not Mr. President. Let us hear what our president is saying. Nigerian citizens voted you into power so that they can relate. Let us hear Mr. President. Look at what is happening now. Look at the excesses of the Nigerian agencies, security agencies, giving a very bad impression to the Nigerian, particularly to this administration. So a lot has to be done. Furthermore, appointments, formation of cabinets, government offices. Please, Mr. President, consider the gender dimension to the affairs of states. It is not about muscles. The Nigerian citizen is composed of as much men as women. Why are the women not being appointed? So these are some of the things, I will raise, and I'll kindly want Mr. President to address. The state of insecurity, the excesses of state security agencies, the over-exuberance, the over-enthusiasm, as if they want to please the master. Meanwhile, they are demarketing the Mr. President, giving people the impression that, oh, he is our president, he is not your president. Meanwhile, he's everybody's president. Oh. Let professionalism be brought to bear to affairs of state.
Okay.
Yes.
Esther, I want to take you back a little bit memory lane. Some people in some quarters are saying it has always been the norm. State security agents react to protests in a certain way and things like that. If you remember, while the incumbent president was a candidate in the early 2000s, something happened. I think there was a protest somewhere up north, and tear gas and some other things, were let loose. And 3 days after that protest, the running mate of the president then, former Senate President Chuba Kadibo, went to the great beyond afterwards. So it's been a trend, even amongst, that a protest are reacted to in a certain way. Is it something about this administration or something that civil society should engage the law enforcement officers about? Because it looks like it's a trend, if you catch a man back, even to 1993, the protest, the law enforcement officer reacted to it in a certain way. So is this something civil society would like to engage the law enforcement officers about?
Well, it's about human nature. When people think they have power, they go all out to do, they think they are absolute. But then we have seen how fragile and transient power is. Okay? The world history will reveal persons who acted extremely. For instance, let us look at Hitler. Hitler, in all the atrocities he committed, he had laws backing him. He did everything he did under existing. There was a legal framework. All right? But those things, history has come to judge him that, listen, you didn't do right. So what I'm saying is this. At each point in time, the leader must bring his personality to the affairs, of the people he's leading. All right? We have also seen governments that tolerated free speech and protests in this country. We have also seen governments who told us that, listen, when I'm out, you will know the level of liberty and freedom you enjoyed in this country. So it's about the style of the personality of who is leading. All right? It's not about, oh, it's a trend, it keeps... No, 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 no. Remember, humans are... We, in this country, we are happy killing twins until one lady came and said, listen, you people should stop killing twins. They're gifts from God. Did we not stop? Okay? And we stopped now. So it's not about, oh, it's a trend as such. We are bound to repeat it. It's about the human beings and what they allow. And the impression, you know, what we have now is that we have, it appears that our security follows our politics, that our politics determines our security, our politics determines, you know, our justice system. It should not happen. We must grow. And the role of civil society is that, civil society, by the way, as I said, is everybody who is not bearing arms. It doesn't, every other person who is not bearing arms is part of civil society. And it is our duty to keep talking about it until change comes. You know, look at the pressure that was brought to bear that led to the, you know, eventual bail of El Zazaki. That is government de-escalating because there was pressure. Okay, so what we are saying is this. Whatever people are saying, it is the role of civil society to engage government intellectually. And whenever issues are raised, frankly, I expected the government of the day, for instance, to engage these people, you know, who are taking up, who are saying they are entering the streets. Why don't you engage them intellectually? Interview them. One thing you will find out is that there's no concurrence of opinion on why people are on the streets. Why don't you do that? You didn't talk to people. You just started hauling them into Black Marias, painting this government black. That action was utterly unnecessary, devoid of any political goodwill. And it will go down, I think it's one of the dumbest ideas, or rather opinions, advices ever given to the federal government. So civil society, we must keep the torch burning. We must keep talking about it. We must keep reminding the government of its duties. And that is what we should be doing.
And let me quickly turn attention away just from the civil society space, especially when it comes to civil protests, and take you up on the anti-corruption fight of this administration. You know, the clouds of corruption still hovers over politics in Nigeria. And recently, we've seen the president's intended cabinets that have been screened and are now designates. However, there are those who say, you know, the posturing of this administration when it comes to anti-corruption fight may just have been dented with some of those names on the list. How would you describe the fight against corruption so far?
Well, it's tragic. Why is it tragic? First of all, permit me to speak in parables. So the proverbial dog, all right, that was set to guard the bone, okay, has started eating those bones. The bones will say, oh, dog, come and guard this bone. And what did we do to this dog? We said, listen, we know you have eaten bones, okay, but we're going to make you chief secretary of these bones anyway. It's a caricature. Absolute caricature. We saw persons who have been standing trials over years. Suddenly, the government says, your sins are forgiven, go and sin no more. Why? And we want Nigerian citizens, you see how they cluster around newspaper stands every morning? How they listen attentively to what is happening. They are aware of the affairs of state. And what do? They shake their heads and nod, say, listen, there's no hope. When government takes actions like that, they isolate the people from the state. They isolate the people from the state. And this constant isolation of people from the state and blessing those with baggages. Are you saying that we do not have Nigerians? I'm not talking about sense. People who have no baggage, security baggage at all. I know that there's a presumption of innocence under the law, but can we not just let these people step aside a bit, face the court trial? Can we not, is it not possible to find somebody? There must be somebody in Nigeria who doesn't have a baggage, who's not being questioned, you know, standing trial in court, who can fill that cabinet. And to rub salt to injury, when they kowtow with the government in power, their sins are openly and notoriously forgiven and celebrated. What are we teaching the younger generation? We're telling them that all that matters is that you get what? Get into power. That what matters is political power. Just get into it anyhow, anywhere, every other thing will follow. And the civil society is saying, listen, that is not the way to do it. There's something unfair about it. There's a veneer of injustice about it. And this is what makes people take up arms against the state.
Okay. Something is
I was listening to the, yes.
Okay, so something is definitely,
Yes.
Esther, we'll definitely have you to come talk about these issues and even more on the show. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you for your time, Mark.